Welcome. John Whatley with Stein Whatley Astorino, Louisville's personal injury law firm. Today I've got my partner with me, Rob Astorino, and we're going to talk about why is it important to have a trial attorney on your side. So if you've been in a car wreck recently, then or you've had any sort of injury, and you're looking to hire a personal injury attorney, the importance of hiring a personal injury attorney with trial experience. Let's start there, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, if a friend or family member was in a car wreck, that would be the number one question that I tell them to ask anyone that they're considering to represent them is, does your office go to trial? How often? What's your track record there? And really just, separating trial attorneys from attorneys who just advertise for car wrecks, personal injury cases, because a lot of the attorneys that you see frequently on TV or hear on the radio, none of them actually take cases all the way to trial. Some of them don't even file lawsuits, and that can really hurt you in the long run.
Well, even worse than that, some of those attorneys that advertise, one, may not be attorneys, even though they are acting like they're attorneys, and two, sometimes they're not even in your jurisdiction. So they may be out-of-state attorneys also advertising.
Yeah, more so online these days, there are a lot of people who advertise that may not even be attorneys, but we are seeing some attorneys that are, outside the state advertise. And, even some attorneys that advertise inside the state, just don't have the experience filing lawsuits and going to trial. And it's one of those common misconceptions that if you see an attorney, whether it's on TV or just in regular life, that because they're an attorney, they're capable of filing a lawsuit and taking a case to trial. And not every attorney is capable of doing that. There are many, many different attorney specialties, and some of them don't ever have the experience to file a lawsuit or go to trial on your behalf. And that is an important part of the skill set of someone to represent you if you've been in a car wreck or have suffered some sort of injury that's someone else's fault.
Yeah. So we've mentioned that it's important. Let's discuss why it's important. I'll start off. The thing that's slapping me in the face, or should anyone in the face about this, or why is the ultimate reason why you've gone to a personal injury attorney is to get compensation for the loss that you've suffered. So what's the difference between someone that the potential recovery from an attorney that does not necessarily try cases or file lawsuits and somebody that advertises but just settles out of court?
So I know we've done a whole other episode on, what cases are worth and what can affect the value of those cases. So I won't dive all the way into that. And it's hard to know the exact number, but there is a difference in the way that opposing parties, large companies, insurance companies value claims when they know your attorney can take a case all the way to trial. And the reason for that is pretty simple. The only way that the American legal system can truly make someone else pay against their will is to have a case go all the way to trial, get a jury verdict in your favor, and then a judge, tells them that they have to pay this. Up until that point, even though most cases settle before the trial period, that the only way that you can get a case to settle at that point is if both parties agree on the value. And if the party who you're going up against, whether it's an insurance company, whether it's a large company, a trucking company, that has injured you in some way, if they don't think that you're capable of going all the way and making them pay at the end of the process, they will lowball your claim. They'll pay less than it's worth because they know in the back of their mind that, your attorney may not be able to do what is necessary to force them to pay at the end of the day and force them to pay maximum value.
Right. And, most people have a misconception of what an insurance company is. Insurance companies, you boil everything away, all the advertising, all the other stuff, they're really just assessing risk, and they're a data company. So they have actuaries that they hire to determine what the risk category is for a particular zip code or demographic. But they also use the same techniques that they use on the people that they're selling insurance to, on the attorneys that they also have on the back end when there are claims. So they have a wide range of information, especially like companies like State Farm, where they're doing claims all across the country. They have all of these attorneys in their databases. They know the ones that they've settled with, the ones that have filed suit and that settled after suit. They have the ones that have gone to trial, the ones that have been successful and haven't been successful. And if they think they can comb through their data and find a way to make an edge or create value for their shareholders, they're going to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, if you think that an insurance company doesn't know whether your attorney is capable of going to trial or how many times they've done it, you're crazy. The insurance companies absolutely know that. Court data is public. They can see attorneys' names. They can see results of cases that they've done in the past. And, I have seen internal forms from insurance companies that are exchanged between the company and their attorneys themselves. And one of the very first questions they ask is, is this a firm that will try the case if necessary, or is this firm who's not likely to do that?
Yeah.
And that very first question that they ask affects the overall value of your case, whether you know that or not.
Yeah. Have they filed a case in the last 2 years or whatever their parameters are?
Yeah, I've seen 2 years. I've seen 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess from the practical standpoint, what's that mean for, an injured party?
Well, as we said, the number one thing is, the assessment of the value of the case. But even further down, there are injury firms who, in my opinion, are barely attorneys at all. Like they may have an attorney running them and all those things, but the attorneys at those firms don't ever file lawsuits. They try and negotiate with the insurance companies, get the best deal they can, and close the file before a lawsuit's necessary. And if you end up going with one of those firms and it comes to the point where your case cannot be settled before the filing of the lawsuit, what you're inevitably going to hear is, hey, we work with this other attorney when it's time to go file your case and get it ready for trial. And so you have to go meet a whole nother attorney halfway through the process if your case is not one that can be settled during that time. So a second thing, in addition to negatively impacting case value, is that you could end up dealing with multiple attorneys during the process, even though it's not something that you thought you were going to have to do up front.
Yeah, and that's if the firm that you're using is doing right by you. It could be for their own reasons that they put pressure on you to take an amount that is lower than what the true value of the claim is, only because they don't have the ability to file the suit, to do the depositions or discovery that's necessary to unlock the true value of the claim.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And not every firm that doesn't go to trial or doesn't have trial attorneys will, pressure clients to do those things.
Sure, I'm not suggesting everybody does that.
But it does happen. I mean, there are firms out there that do that, and, saying that there are no, bad actor attorneys out there. There's bad actors in every business, and they're not always obvious. But an easy way to, avoid that potential issue is to make sure that the law firm that you hire for your injury, accident or, injury caused by somebody else, employs trial attorneys, is prepared to go to trial, under the roof that you start with, you can really save yourself a lot of heartache with those two issues right off the bat.
Right. The other thing that I find, this happens when someone's contacted another attorney, weren't happy with that attorney, and then contact us, and I'm talking to them on the phone. And if that previous attorney was an attorney that I know from reputation, does not file, does not try cases, I have seen shockingly bad advice given.
Nothing shocks me anymore.
Right. But you think you know better. Like, wow. And then I've got to come through and clean that up. Say, no, that's not exactly right. This is what you should be doing.
I mean, it's hard to know these days whether the client got the bad advice from an attorney who doesn't go to trial or it's ChatGPT. But
wow,
that's a whole nother story. But that is an important point. When you're beginning your injury recovery process, there are lots of questions that you have about what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to see a doctor? Can I see a doctor too much? Is not enough? What can I do to preserve my claim? Should I be telling a bunch of people? Should I not be telling a bunch of people? And, we have the answers for all those things, believe me. But if we see clients that come to us secondhand from some of these places where, they just try to get a quick insurance settlement and then that's it. These clients will not have been helped to their maximum extent. There are certain things that need to be done at the beginning of the case to maximize the value.
Sure, and if it's done improperly, it can affect the value on the back end later on down the road.
No, absolutely. I mean, in addition to advice, there's certain evidence in cases that can be lost if it's not maintained properly, if you have an attorney who doesn't have their eye towards the end goal of filing a lawsuit or going to trial from the very beginning, that evidence can disappear. It cannot be preserved properly. You can have problems down the road if, somebody doesn't look at that.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing that I'd like to say is, like, just because you hire a trial attorney doesn't mean you are forced to try a case.
Correct.
And you are, in most cases, even after the filing of a lawsuit, are still able to obtain a settlement. But if the attorney that you choose to shepherd you through this process is one that is experienced going all the way to trial, experienced with the lawsuit and the litigation process, all of these other things become easier. And in fact, getting a settlement before you even start that process becomes more likely.
Yeah, correct. I mean, if they understand that you're willing to go all the way, the insurance company or the adjuster on the other side is more willing to offer their top number on what they've got the case valued internally. Additionally, like you were saying, there's a lot of off-ramps for plaintiffs after a suit is filed. If you get an attorney that, and sometimes there's people that don't regularly do it, but they'll do it because they got to save a statute date or something like that, or they're moving through the litigation process, but not intentional. I understand. The other side's going to understand if you're pushing the case, you're getting discovery out, you're asking for depositions, you're moving this case, and you got them on their heels, they're also more likely to open up the pocketbook because they say, hey, if this is a case that ultimately needs to be settled, let's not wait, another year or two. But if it's somebody that's going to allow this case to sit and languish, they'll just sit on their hands and wait it out.
Well, I mean, like John said at the very beginning of this episode, insurance companies all ultimately are about maximizing their value. And if they know that you've hired an aggressive attorney who understands how to hold their feet to the fire, it's ultimately going to cost them more money not to settle the claims that they should. But if you hire an attorney who they're not afraid of, who they don't think is aggressive, who don't think is going to force their hand and, legitimately cost them money by making them defend the case, they're going to keep taking that chance. They're going to not offer you full value because they don't see as much risk in the litigation process to them. And so, what I don't want the takeaway today to be is, anybody but us is a bad attorney. I mean, that's not the point that we're trying to get across. And so you may be sitting there asking, well, this is all great information, but, usually people don't just come right out and say it. All you have to do is when you're looking for an attorney after you or a family member has been hurt, just ask, is this a firm that tries cases? And if it is, what is your strategy for that? What's the attorney's evaluation for when a case needs to be tried or when a lawsuit should be filed? Any attorney who has experience in that process should be able to answer those questions very easily and give you a lot of peace of mind. And there's lots and lots and lots of good options out there. We're just trying to help you get to those good options.
Right. I absolutely agree. If you have any questions, check out our website. We got more information on our website. It's steinwhatley.com, STEINWHATLEY.com. Feel free to check out one of our blogs, and we'll continue to put out more information. If you've got any questions related to personal injury, the law, as far as Kentucky or Indiana type cases, if there's a topic you'd like to see us cover, go ahead and leave that in the comments below or send us an email, and we will consider that for a future episode. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Stein Whatley Astorino, serious attorney, serious results.